I didn't honestly even know you were recording. I thought you were just taking some random pictures. So I mean, it ended up being it's interesting. I'm glad that it's taken off. It's clear that there's interest. Helldivers is one of those games that, to me, it breaks the mold of standard game. There are a few co-op games out there. There are plenty of first-person shooters, but there's just something about the magic of Helldivers in the video game that just brings people together and is a lot of fun. And so that's kind of how I got to the miniatures game version. So I've been a long time wargamer. I've been playing miniatures games since early middle school, and I'm 47 now. So I'm above the 30-year mark, unfortunately, of gaming. So 35, I don't know, whatever the math is. But I've been playing games for forever. And so I've been a big fan of the Starship Troopers franchise for years. Played the miniatures game in the past. And then, my son got me into, he kept trying to get me to play Helldivers, the video game. And I finally bit the bullet a while back. I came to Xbox and I was immediately hooked and played more than I should. And I wanted to see it in a miniatures game because I'm a tabletop wargamer at heart, and I just love that whole industry inside of things. So I wanted to take the fun of the video game and bring it to the tabletop and recreate the chaotic mass battle, mass chaos, the fun of Helldivers on the tabletop.
Well, hell yeah. Yeah, you have been very influential to me. Like when we met and you were doing Blood and Grit, that game and being with those people is what got me out of my depression.
Oh, wow.
Like I had nothing. I had a fiance who 2 weeks later was dating somebody, and you have been a very big influential person in building out my whole gaming culture. Seeing your STL files and the I'm drawing a blank right now, the Blood and Plunder. Yeah. Seeing those has inspired me to make my stuff.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I think we first met probably through the Summer of Plunder, if I remember right. Summer of Plunder maybe last year, which is maybe shortly after the end of that, perhaps.
I think it was November.
Okay, so it would have been, we were running Blood and Plunder games at the store following the Summer of Plunder.
Yeah. We were doing an escalation league.
Yep, that's what it was.
I'm going to be completely honest. It was completely by chance that I ended up there because my father was coming down on me for drinking. I was, but I needed somewhere to go and some parking lot to sit in to drink. And I actually ended up there, came in because I was building out a Tau army that I was actually painting to look like the Covenant, and I called it the Greater Journey. So complete happenstance. But just to watch from that go to you developing Helldivers on like a board game or a miniature game is the right way to put it. But just to go from that, and I really wish I got to play more.
Yeah, I mean that's it's one of those things. We've started in one system and we've evolved into a couple, and it's good to see that you're staying involved and that you're trying to find things to occupy your time and maybe redirect things in the right direction.
Right. But I remember looking over your STL files and your action cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that Excel spreadsheet, and looking at that and just getting so excited. So for everyone that wants to kind of play it now before it gets built out and sold to a company. I'm not going to ask for the rule books, but I want to know what miniatures you used to co-op it.
So
I know that.
let me answer the question that's come up probably more than anything is, where do I get the rule book? How do I play the game?
Right.
We're in a spot where it's kind of a unique situation. Helldivers is a license, or is a IP. So Arrowhead owns the IP for that. I don't have any right to do anything with it. I can't financially profit from that and that without getting approval. And so I'm in a spot where I'm trying to build a game that is viable for more than just me sitting around on a Saturday afternoon and playing with a couple of buddies. I want to see Helldivers, the video game, translated in a fully viable tabletop war game. So I know the board game exists. I've seen it. I've read the rules, and the minis look amazing. The potential is there. That board game that's still kind of in that Kickstarter phase is one that it's designed more for the board game industry, and that's the whole goal. I am a tabletop wargamer, which is very similar in concept, some of the principles, but it is a different beast and a different animal. What I want to do is see something more like a 40K or a Star Wars Legion experience happen on the tabletop. And so that was my main goal and what I'm doing. I've got a fully developed rule set. I've gone through. We've got stat cards for every weapon, stratagem in the game, for the Terminids, for the Illuminate, for the Automatons, all of the main factions. We have unit cards for all of units. All of the opponents that you would play against or as are available right now in a limited format. They're behind we've got a closed Discord that has access to the different PDFs and the things that I've created. But I'm not quite at a point where I want to share that publicly yet, because one, I don't have the licensed IP, so publishing it out there would hurt the chances of getting that.
Yeah, that sounds like copyright.
I don't want to violate copyright. I don't want to do anything without doing it properly. And so my long-term goal is to try to get a hold of Arrowhead or some of the other companies that I know. Steamforged Games, that is producing the board game. My understanding is Mantic is producing the miniatures. I'd love to sit down with some of those guys and talk about it and see about getting either some sort of a partnership or an ability to do a licensed IP product. At that point, then I'd be happy to share that once things are locked down, things are in a controlled environment. We have a very limited playtester set up right now. I say limited, a few dozen people, but it's kind of locked down. So if anybody is interested in signing up to get more information or to potentially get on the waiting list for the playtesting group, I've got a website, is finalstandgames.com. And there's a spot where you can sign up to get basic information, and then there's another opt-in kind of thing for signing up to be a playtester. What that ends up doing is it ends up getting you access to our Discord server, where we've got, like I said, PDF for the rules, PDF for the units, for stratagems, weapons, those kind of things. But then I also have a collection of several of the STL files. There are some folks that are out there creating STL. So the vast majority of stuff that I've created is not something, I'm not creating actual units from the game. At this point, anything that you've seen of pictures or anything that I have, I've used somebody else's STLs. Anything I've done has all been mostly terrain or game aid type things for like little tokens or some of the modifiers. Any of the STLs and things that I've built for terrain have always been for like Blood and Plunder or other game systems. So I've done some things where, some of the proxies initially, a lot of things were from Starship Troopers, the old miniatures game from Mongoose Publishing. I've got a couple hundred warrior bugs and random bugs from that I've had, for a long time. But I've been 3D printing. My 3D printer has been running consistently, just cranking out models, and I've been trying to paint as quickly as I can to get things to the tabletop. And so I've got a full set of Helldivers, a full set of all of the factions at this point. The vast majority of them. I'm almost completely done with the automatons, so I've got a crap ton of bots that are about to start showing up in more and more photos. That's what was featured in that demo game that you ran. We've got
not to cut you off.
Sure.
I think it would be cool if you took some recordings and I'll piece them together and share it with everybody.
Yeah. So with your initial video that kind of took off, I was originally I was a little annoyed at first, honestly, because I wasn't ready to release it to the world. But the feedback on that has been great, and it's kind of encouraged me to push a little bit more into the video world. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not got a face for radio kind of thing. I've recorded. I was recording last week, and the intention is to try to do some more coming up. I'm going to do just kind of a basic overview of what the game is, kind of the action mechanics and high level, 4 or 5 minute thing, just to say, hey, here's what the game is, here's how it works, and then do a couple of really basic learn to play kind of deals just to get people familiar with what I'm doing and what it looks like, so that this is a fully working game. It's not just some guy winging it in his basement. I've put way too many hours into this. My oldest son and I have been writing content and generating things and been running games, and I've been running demos at multiple stores and sucking people in as fast as I can to try to get this. I want this to be a reality. So I have no idea what the question was, but a randomness.
Anyways, tell me more. Tell me more. Fine. I want to know more.
Tell you more.
It's the easiest way to because I know this is mainly about Helldivers, but I will also blow your ass up over Gaslands and Blood and Grit. I know they don't have the bandwidth for any of that later, but yeah.
Gaslands, great system, good fun. Mass Chaos, that was another game system that I think we've played a few rounds. That's one of those that scratches a great itch. It's a good, short, fast-paced, chaotic game. So there are actually elements of Gaslands that I love, and there are things that inspired me for some of that into Helldivers. As a whole, I've tried, I've played, I don't even know how many game systems over the years. One of the things with Helldivers that I've tried to do that is different probably than, having played enough games, I've tried to pull the good bits in and try to maximize the features that I enjoy and the things that I think help translate the video game to the table. I try to cut as much fluff out as you can. So Helldivers is a fast-paced game in and of itself. Things are constantly moving. One of the things that I think is a key element for the miniatures game is the Helldivers themselves have an ability that I don't think I've seen in any other game. It may exist, but not quite in the same format. So they have an ability called Running Gun, which lets them move and do a shoot attack in the same action. So in most games you either move or you shoot or you do one or the other. Battletech, you're doing both, but they're in separate phases. This is close as possible trying to simulate and put that into a single action and treating it as a continuous thing that's working. I stripped out the saving rolls, so trying to cut down on the number of dice rolls. Helldivers in and of itself is very brutal in the video game, and I'm trying to recreate that too. So if you hit, you hit. If you die, you die. There's things that try to speed it out. I don't like a lot of back and forth will happen, and it will happen in the game. So one of the other things that I love is I don't like games that are you go, I go. So like 40K to me suffers from you're going to get a turn and you're going to move your entire army, and then I'm going to get to respawn and I'm going to move my entire army. It's a lot of very long turns without a lot of back and forth. Helldivers, you get 2 actions. You activate 1 unit, you get 2 actions, but then in the middle of that, an opponent gets a reaction. So there's constantly things going on. I'll activate a unit, then you activate a unit with 2 actions, and you get a reaction. And there's some mechanics to do some additional interrupts or some additional actions. So we have a thing called a fate token. You have a finite resource of that you can use to either add bonus actions or to do some heroic crazy crap that helps make the game more fun and interesting. So
yeah, I noticed how it was kind of like Port Royal in the reactions.
Port Royal has the reaction system. They force you to do a test every time. That to me is one of those that's an unnecessary role for this game because again, I'm trying to get through this. I want this game to be fast-paced. It's set up where your minis are, if you stop moving in this game and you try to hunker down and snipe, vast majority of the time, that's a bad thing. There are times when that's, there are missions and there are cases when that is a relevant thing, but Helldivers, the video game, you're constantly moving, you're constantly running to an objective, you're constantly running either to or from an enemy. deal with things, and that is one of the chief underlying things that I'm trying to recreate. I want constant movement. I don't like games where it's run for the single set of cover that looks great or the center objective, and then we're just going to sit here and trade shots until it's over. It's boring over time. So
that's a major complaint for me.
There's a time and a place for that kind of game, but if that is every game turns into run for the best cover and then just trade shots until the round is over, or just run straight forward and slam into each other in melee, those games get a little bit repetitive. This game, to me, is about choices, about empowering the player to do crazy stuff, to let them feel like they're in control of things and that they can affect different outcomes in a way that they may not be able to do in other games. I hope played the one demo.
I understand what you're saying.
It's just kind of a background mindset. One of the other things, this exists in some games. It exists in a lot of, there are board games like a Zombicide kind of deal where it's a co-op where it's your 4 players against the world. This is very similar in concept. Helldivers in and of itself, the original video game, is designed to be a co-op game. Same kind of thing in this. You can play 1 to 4 players. Everybody is going to control 1 or more Helldivers. But you can, the initial game was to build, the goal was to build it where you were playing a co-op game against AI and having, your 4 guys fighting against the terminid swarm of bugs or automatons, whatever it is. Right. There are rules, and you're fully capable of playing as the bugs, and you can play a PvP game if you want to. So you can play 1 guy running all 4 Helldivers and 1 guy's running the, whatever the chosen baddies you want to be. Every unit has a point cost, so just like a traditional war game, if you want to build your army out, you want to play a 1,000-point game, you pick whatever your point value of your units is, lay them on the table and go. So it's not the goal, and we haven't really tested it because that's not the primary thing. You could theoretically play automatons versus Illuminate if you wanted to. We're not playtesting that, and that is not an initial goal. I know that question came up in the video comments that you had posted before. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. Nothing from preventing you from doing that, but the way it's built, it's not what it's play tested for. So part of it is you're playing on a big board and you're unlocking things start unalerted, so they are spawned on the board. You get close enough or you trigger things and things activate and play. So if you have 2 units that are unactivated, there are not rules currently to deal with 2 armies that are in a weird state of partially patrolling the board and partially unactivated for them to trigger each other. Sure, somebody's going to tweak it at some point or add some rules. Not opposed to it down the road, but that's not the initial goal. So not spending the time and the resources.
I feel like it could easily be adapted in.
Yeah, there's
no
reason.
You've already got like a point cost,
right?
And I think it would be fun if you had our group of people. Imagine like those 4 people and 2 of them playing Helldivers, just going around, and 2 of them fighting each other.
Right. Yeah. So out of the gate, there's an interesting way to play any miniatures game. Are you playing it for a narrative aspect? Are you playing it for something fun to do? Or are you playing it for a competitive environment? Initially, I'm a competitive wargamer by default, so I'm attracted to games where I want to win. I'm not into participation trophies necessarily. I want somebody to win. I want things to be fair. I am a big proponent of trying to make sure that there are balanced things. I'm a software developer by day, and so I'm very much logic focused. I'm very much looking for loopholes or problems in rules whenever I'm playing. I'm a white hat rules lawyer. I'm looking for bugs and loopholes to exploit, but not to exploit, but to fix a lot of times. So my goal is, how do you prevent problems in a game? Proactive. Not, I want to ruin somebody's day because I made this magical force that's capable of dropping way behind the enemy lines, wipe out your command unit, and end the game in turn 2 or 1 in a friendly game.
Yeah, it's not much fun.
Competitive environment, I don't like games that have that. So that's one of the number one things, is trying to make sure we're balanced, and trying to make sure we're play testing and dealing with weird situations. I'm wired to find problems, and I want to do that. I don't want to spend my time doing that early on in this phase of trying to make sure, can the bots fight the Illuminate? That's not the goal of Helldivers. You can't do it in the video game. I don't want to introduce new stuff. Down the road, sure. But anyway, enough on that.
Well, I'm pretty sure somebody can house rule it.
Yeah, I don't. The framework is there. It's certainly possible. It's just saying it's not a goal initially.
Yeah,
I guarantee
it's just not a priority right now.
Right. Somebody will do it, or somebody will modify it, and all for it.
Oh no, where'd you go?
Your camera is off. No, I'm sitting at my dining table right now, and I've got a few miniatures. So, I've got a Hulk. My dining room's a mess right now.
Bruh, if you want to talk about mess, don't even get me started with this little.
So I've got a tray. These are some of the bots that I'm painting right now. I've got a tray of Illuminate sitting over here that's a work in progress somewhere. I don't know that I can reach it from here. A War Strider. I've got 1,500 walls and turrets and things sitting over here for the automatons. I'm in the process of trying to build an outpost in Stingray.
Well,
Warp ships. Can't really reach much now. I've got a tray of Boatless and some Overseers.
That was something I ended up seeing as a commercial. Was a website called Mini Maker.
Yeah, I mean there are 1,500 sites out there for if you get into the 3D printing space, and there are some folks that have probably delved into some areas that I wouldn't necessarily endorse, but
you could call it 80s divers.
There are a lot of there's heck divers and hell droppers. At this point we've started calling it democracy drop troopers internally. Everything on the website will say currently it's democracy drop troopers. Because again, I don't have the IP and I don't want to violate that, but it's a weird catch-22. If you've got to violate it to a certain degree to be able to get something developed, want to get a license, want to get to the point of having it done. I don't know how you can't do one without doing the other. I can't say I'm never going to touch your IP. I can never create your minis and develop something to a point that gets eyeballs or gets people interested without doing that. Because I've got to show some level of effort and ability to recreate things in a good way. But I got to do that respectfully, obviously.
Yeah, as one does. So, do you have anything else you want to tell me about this? Anything more?
I'm trying to think. We talked about some of the questions that were in the comments from the videos. The biggest one is, how do you get it? Again, is go to finalstandgames.com. You can sign up for information there, and then as soon as possible, I'd love to open that up to get people in to do some playtesting. Again, my initial goal is I'm going to meet with some folks at Adepticon coming up here in March and see if we can't get some inroads and see if we can get going forward. Get some sort of thumbs up to say, yeah, keep going.
I'm really bummed that I don't get to go to your Adepticon.
Well, I mean, it's not my Adepticon.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the one you're going to.
Yeah. So I'm again, the tabletop space. I've done a lot of stuff with Blood and Pigment and with Firelock games. Blood and Plunder has been my go-to system for the last probably 5 to 7 years. It's the one that I've hosted a ton of events, tried to help with some of the community events in Summer of Plunder, the big international campaign that we run every year, where we get people together and they squabble over the Caribbean and try to take over and control things. That was one of those things that is a good precursor for the Helldivers community. So Summer of Plunder is a co-op event where players can play games locally at home or in their stores or whatever, and then they submit their results online to Blood and Pigment. And we take those results of their games. They can vote on which locations to track or to attack or defend on a map, and it controls. So I'm playing for the English, and I want to attack the Spanish in St. Augustine. We could do that. You track it, and we'd tally up the votes from players week to week, and it would change control of the map. My goal in part of this is, I want to build community. I think that is one of the strengths of Helldivers in and of itself, is it is a co-op game fundamentally. That's how it started, and that's what I want to do. I want to build something cooperative, something where people can have fun at the table and take a break from reality and enjoy themselves in a game in a way that's fun. But then we can also flip the script. If you want to scratch the competitive itch, or you want to play player versus player, there's rules, there's content there. Long term, there will be some outline framework for doing a campaign system. So over time, you're starting with just a basic Helldiver, just like in the video game, you've got your basic Liberator and basic grenades, basic stratagems, and you're going to earn medals or samples through the game and just slowly unlock more and more content over time, and then having scenarios and missions linked together into that campaign system.
That would be pretty cool. Your mic cut out.
How about now?
Yep, you're good. But yeah, no, that would be... So you're thinking like a campaign system in addition to like the baseline game?
Would likely be, it depends. I don't want to speak. I have lots of things, I've got spreadsheets and things and documents lining out things. Not just from simply how do I build a game, but how do I build this as a game that is potential? It needs to be financially viable. So long term, if you get a license, you've got to be able to commercially sell the miniatures, commercially sell the products. The campaign system is a good expansion. Right now, I've got it set up where there's core rules, and then there is an army companion. So right now, all of the factions live in a single document. So you have a single army companion that follows all of those. That may get fleshed out or split up. There's some business decisions for something like that if that were to happen. Do you want to have individual codex type things where you follow the 40K model where I want to play automatons, I'm going to have a specific book that's the automatons, or pick them all in one? I would personally lean to all in one because at least for the initial release. Down the road, if things expand and the game continues to do well, then you could always split that out. But I don't want to overwhelm people with. There's a fine line of how do I play a game, spend money, and enjoy myself without getting milked. And you have to keep the doors open, and you have to keep a business going. And so there's that balance of how do you stay financially viable and how do you keep players happy.
Well, I mean,
campaign book is a good expansion. That's where I was trying to get to. Is a campaign book is a good expansion for. Here's the core rules. Here's an army compendium. Now we have, maybe we're going to do the Malevolent Creek campaign, or we can do, specific campaign booklets where here's a series of linked scenarios or narrative play to where you have a map to fight over, you have progress, things to do, rather than just, I'm just going to go play and I'm just going to have a one-off, one and done. I like the ability for there to be more invested in a game system, more invested in what I'm doing. One-off games are great, but anytime you can get people to keep coming back, or you feel more vested in your Helldiver or whatever your character is, seeing it develop or unlocking new features in your Terminids, you go from just having warriors to maybe you're adding in shriekers or stalkers, or you add new units over time, or you unlock different features. Progression is good.
So something more like D&D campaigns versus how 40K does it, where you have to buy a book for every faction.
Yeah, I like being able to give people all of their tools as much as possible, and then let them to create the art. I want to create the good sandbox for you to play in, and then after you get bored with the sandbox for a while, oh look, here I got you a new dump truck and an excavator. So now you can play with that same sandbox again, but there's more new tools. I'm not taking your old tools away, or I'm not restricting your ability to use what you have. I just want you to have new shiny toys.
No, I love that idea, because I think that would be so much better than my two biggest complaints about the miniature tabletop wargaming is, ironically, it's all with Warhammer. It's, I hate the move turn order where it's a dice roll. Whoever gets to go first moves their entire army, shoots my ass, or I shoot them, and then I get to respond with whatever's left.
Right.
I hate that composition, and I really love the Blood and Plunder's turn order. The other big complaint that I have is every edition, I have to buy a new rule book to download an app to tell me what the models do.
It's a very precarious line that you have to walk, because people, this is broken, I want you to fix it, but I don't want to pay for it to be fixed, or I don't want it to be invalidate what I have. And so you've got to figure out a good system of how do I go from here is the core content, but it needs to be able to update over time without invalidating what you have. So that is a struggle for any gaming company, and being the largest and having one of the biggest player bases is a constant struggle for Games Workshop, and I do not envy them because there's not a good answer. I mean, there are better answers.
No,
you know,
but
it's a tough line to walk, and to me, a lot of that is you got to figure out the playtesting a lot up front. You've got to be able to balance things and figure out, but then you have to be adaptable and willing to make changes. So if you create a rule system and you put it out there and then you don't touch it for 5 to 7 years or 10 years, the game's going to die just as much as it would if you're changing new editions every 2 or 3 years. There's some sort of a balance in the middle of that you've got to figure out, and you've got to walk that line and have to do it not just from a conceptual level, but you have to do that from a business perspective. So you got to figure out how to generate a consistent revenue stream without screwing your players, and bring your players on board and get them to buy in and want what is new. You want to, I can create new products all the time, and there are other companies that just, they're flashbang products. So here's the latest cool IP that I've sucked in, and I've put it into a board game and crank it out and release it, and I'll burn it on Kickstarter, and then I'll just release a new one on Kickstarter and release a new one on Kickstarter, and I'm just constantly feeding flashbang games without support and without long-term viability. And so that puts a negative taste in people's mouth, or you don't get as good of a gaming experience. On the flip side, if you don't innovate and you don't release progressively or iterate in a way that grows a game, it's going to die from the other side of things.
True.
All things, I've been around in the space long enough to know that it's not an easy solution, and if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. So I've tried to. I'm a big picture guy. I like to think about things, not just how do I solve this immediate problem. What's the long-term ramifications for that? So that's where, yes, I'm creating Helldivers, a miniatures game, but I want Helldivers as the miniatures game universe, so to speak. I want more than a beer and pretzels game that I'm going to play on a Friday night and then not play it again. I want you to get invested in the game. I want you to enjoy the game. I want it to be an experience, not just a game. That sounds cliche as all get out, but anyway, that's my mindset.
No, it's not cliche. I mean, yeah. No, that makes total sense. And I guess if you do the D&D campaigns, as opposed to make everybody buy a codex every year, then that's a new experience, as opposed to forcing somebody to upgrade everything that they already own.
Right. So there's some things you can do when you use a campaign model, or you use something of that nature. You have your core rules, you have your core units that have set up, but it's more of a yes and. So you have the core rules. If you want to add this campaign system, and we've added some additional rule changes or things, and you sort of bolt on or you tweak, you can fix things without having to completely invalidate the core rule book. That's my initial thoughts on how to do that. Whether that lands in practice, who knows. The benefit is, the video game exists, so there's at least a framework, but you can never fully recreate a video game in a tabletop game. Tried to do my best. We've tried to do our best. There are certain things. One is a totally different system, so there are certain things that there are minor sacrifices that you have to make to make it playable on a tabletop. If you go into any tabletop game and you expect it to work exactly like the video game, you're doing the wrong thing. That said, if you ignore everything in the video game, if you play the tabletop game, that's one of the struggles that I've had a little bit with the board game. No offense, Steamforged. Love the product concept. There are certain things in a lot of board games when they adapt it doesn't recreate the feeling I get or how something works in the video game in the board game. I just get a single, I don't know. You know it when you know it, and you know when it's not. So it's like, how do you know when you're in love with somebody? You don't, but you know when you know. So I think there's certain things when a game system has the it, and when it's just, this is a mechanic that is out here to be a mechanic. I'm lose the flavor.
No,
so just one of those things is trying to walk the line, but you can get pedantic in rules and you're putting in too much. And my constant goal is, how do I take content out of the rule book, not add content? I want to say as much as I can in as short as amount of space. You know, I don't want a 400-page rule book. I don't want a 2-page rule book. There's somewhere in the middle, or a 1-page rules. 1-page rules is great. That sounds good on the surface, but then it's really not 1 page. You've got all these other things that keep bolting on, and so the concept is good. The concept of keep it as streamlined as possible is the underlying foundational thing. You know, the whole rule book right now, I haven't looked at it specifically. We've got some, you take out the table of contents, you take out the playtesting errata stuff that's been at the top. You take out the images, it's less than 30 pages. And I think that's a good spot to be. It needs to be approachable. It needs to be, I want to play a game. I don't want to read an encyclopedia. So that again is the goal.
No, I get it. I get it, man.
Push a lot of things. Cards are good for that kind of thing. So I wish I should have brought them. I wasn't thinking. It'll be in some of the videos. A lot of the things, having your cards for things to reference are good tools. So there's a PDF where you can print all the weapon cards. So I have all the stats for my weapons. I have just a cute little, I don't know if that was in that video you released, of a HUD. So I've got my cards laid out on a board, quickly reference what I have. I can pick them up, I can trade them, I can do whatever. I'm adapting there, and you can work in Marvel Crisis Protocol. It is very focused in that way, or Star Wars Legion is very card driven in terms of, I have a unit and I have all of my special abilities. All the rules are on a card. That can be good and bad. You got to be careful with those kind of things. Of, you don't need to create these weird wormholes of, I created a rule that I think is isolated, but now I stack this on top and I stack this on top, and I have an uber ultra force that can just smash everything on, again, balance and everything.
Sounds good. Well, I don't really know what else to say other than my phone's about to die.
Sure. We got to get you back down here and get a game in again, or I don't know when I can get up towards where you're at now.
Well, I mean, if you want to come to Lexicon,
that's been on the list. I was scheduled. Well, I wasn't scheduled, so I was planning to come in 2019, and then COVID hit, and that kind of messed that up. I've actually got a buddy of mine that is in the Lexington area that does a lot of Starship Troopers, and he was actually instrumental in helping me get involved in Starship Troopers a bajillion years ago. That lives up in that area.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm over here trying to build up a little gaming group, and I've been working on this. So these are the Pokemon battle figures.
Okay. I've got some old Starship Troopers Galoob toys and things that, there's an old tanker bug and an old plasma bug that would shoot the little plastic bits out the back, and use those as proxy.
I had one of those little micro machines.
Yeah,
from the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those. It was my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
Favorite thing ever.
Yeah, so early playtesting, I've got one of the Toy Story cartoon dropships that was using that as a pelican for Helldivers until you can 3D print one. So use what you got, have fun. That's the name of the game. It's a game. It's fun of things. So.
Yeah, well, not to cut you off, but my phone's about to die. But I'll go ahead, wrap this up, and post it for everybody else. What was that website again?
FinalStandGames.com. It's a relatively simple site at this point.
Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I'm going to hop off here. I'll message you later.
All right. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you.
Thanks, dude.
Stay busy.
Oh,